James, and he's with our daughter Annika. And I just had a Vbac about a month ago. Well, actually, exactly a month ago on October 28th. So this is how my birth story goes. I had a C-section the first time around, and ever since the C-section, I've always wanted to have a Vbac. And at that time, when I had my first child, we were still living in the US, and my OB was actually not that supportive of me having a Vbac because I think they were afraid of lawsuits and that sort of thing. So I was kind of disappointed. So when we moved back to Singapore, I started to try to find a doctor that was very supportive of Vbac. So I went on the mothering forums online and all that, and I found Dr. Paulson. And I found that he was very supportive of Vbacs, and so I was very comfortable with just, having my baby delivered by him. So fast forward to, the day that my waters broke, which was October 27th. I was actually running a bunch of errands and doing some admin stuff at home. And all of a sudden I said, okay, why don't I just go to the bathroom? I went to the bathroom and I felt a gush of water coming out, and I started to panic. I was like, okay, what is that? So I went to get my phone, and I texted, I called Jeannie, but she was busy, so I texted her. I said, Jeannie, I think my water's broken, what shall I do? And then she said, oh, just wait for contractions to start. Sometimes they could take up to 24 hours. I'm like, what, up to 24 hours? I don't think I can sleep now that my waters have broken. So that was about 6 p.m. in the evening on October 27th. So I went for dinner, I did a couple of things around the house, and about 10:30 I started to feel mild contractions. And I think at that point, around that time, Jeannie called me and she asked, oh, how is it coming along? I said, I think I do feel some contractions, but it's not regular, it comes and it goes. So she says, yeah, okay, that's okay, just wait, when it gets closer, just let me know. It doesn't matter whether it's past midnight, just give me a call. So I took a bath and I was just lying in bed, and the contractions started to get more regular. And I said, oh, maybe this is the start of it, right? And so I started to practice the breathing techniques that I learned during Jeannie's hypnobirthing classes. So in between each contraction, there's this breathing technique called slow breathing. So I did that. And then by about, I would say 2-something, close to 3 o'clock, I felt that it was the contractions, or surges as Jeannie would call them, had gotten pretty intense, and they were getting quite long as well. So I called Jeannie, and she said, I told her that we were going to go to the hospital. She said, okay, we'll meet you there. So on the way to the hospital, the surges were pretty intense, and during each surge, I could only concentrate on the breathing. And when my husband would talk to me, I would say, shh, so don't talk to me, I'm trying to focus. We got to the hospital at about 3+, nearly 4 o'clock, and we checked into room 6, which is, this is at Thomson Medical Center, room 6, which is the only room there that has a hydrotherapy tub, right? And I just waited there until Jeannie came. She came pretty shortly after, and the nurse did a vaginal exam and said, oh, you're 7 cm dilated now. So I was so happy, 7 cm, really? Because with my first baby, I took a very long time to get to 7, more than I think, but maybe 24 hours to get to 7. And now it was from 11 p.m. to 4, and I was already 7. I was so encouraged. So Jeannie came, she filled the bathtub or the hydrotherapy tub, and she encouraged me to labor in there, and I felt that laboring in there was really fantastic because my whole body was weightless, and I could just isolate the pressure that was coming from here. And at that time it was getting pretty intense, and so I was trying the slow breathing technique, and I was also telling myself to not fall into the fear, tension, pain cycle. When you get scared, you tense up and it gets really painful. So I was trying very hard to not fall into that. So I would focus very hard with each surge to just do the breathing technique. And I was also feeling quite a lot of downward pressure with each surge. So I would tell myself, okay, pressure is good, just embrace the pressure, don't fight it, because I knew that if I were to fight it, I would feel a lot of pain. So I just embraced it, relaxed my whole body completely. and I could feel actually like a descending motion, meaning I think that the baby was, you know, like coming down with each surge. So, oh, this is good. Then I turned to Jeannie and said, Jeannie, how do you know when it's time to push? She says, oh, you will know because you'll feel like pooping. Yeah, so, and while I was laboring in the tub, Jeannie was very helpful. She was encouraging me, and she was also teaching my husband how to support me. And I really, between the two of them, I felt really calm and supported. And I think it must have been around an hour plus that I was in the tub. You know, like time gets distorted when you're in labor. So I think at that point I told Jeannie, I think I feel like pooping now. She says, oh, okay. Okay, after the next search, let's get out the tub. So we did get out. I think Jeannie and my husband joined me, and I sat on the birthing stool to try to, I guess, transition to the next stage of labor. And then at some point the nurse came in and did an exam and said, oh, you're nearly there. Meaning, I guess I was nearly at full dilation. Yeah, so I was sitting on the birthing stool, and then there's a different breathing technique that we learn in hypnobirthing called the J breathing. So basically, I think if you ask Jeannie, she'll tell you what the J breathing is, but it's very effective in helping a baby descend, and also if you practice it while you're pooping, it's very effective as well. So I did that, and I sat on the birthing stool, and I think I was trying pretty hard to like breathe the baby out, but it was taking some time. So Jeannie suggested that I squat on the floor with my husband supporting me behind, and we tried that method, and I think it worked pretty well. But yet the baby wasn't really quite coming out. And so I was starting to get a bit anxious and nervous because, okay, is this going to lead to another C-section? So I turned to her and said, Jeannie, am I not doing the breathing correctly? Is my technique inefficient or something? She said, no, you're doing great. She said, when you feel the urge to push, don't arch your back, but like, you know, go this way instead. So I found it very helpful, and I think it did help the baby come down a little. And then we did switch back to the birth stool again, just because Jeannie said if you labor in that position for too long, you might get pulse. So again, very helpful. I went back onto the birth stool, and then we alternated between the birth stool and just, you know, like me squatting on the floor with my husband supporting me. And still, it took some time for the baby to descend. And so by then I was getting a little impatient, I guess. So I was trying very
like
hard.
all mothers would.
Yeah, to push, and I was like, I guess grunting with each push. Apparently, if you like vocalize and don't tense up your mouth, it helps the, I guess it relaxes the vaginal muscles to help the baby descend. So I did just that, and I think I can't remember after how long, but the doctor came in. So I think at that point I must have progressed to a point where the baby was about to come out, because the doctor only comes in at the last minute when you're going to deliver the baby. And I think in the next couple of surges, I just like breathe really hard and push really hard, and the baby started to crown finally. And the nurse and the doctor and Jeannie said, "Oh no, okay, don't push anymore. Let your perineum stretch." So I didn't, but the urge to push was so strong, you know, with each surge. And so I found that I had to close my eyes to just focus on breathing the baby out instead of just going with it and just pushing. And I think very shortly after the head emerged, the body emerged. And I was like, oh my God, I did it. You know, I felt on top of the world. I got the Vbac that I wanted. Yeah, and what I found amazing about the birth was, firstly, the baby was born posterior. And, you know, it's quite a difficult position, I think, for the baby to actually descend when the baby's posterior. And the posterior baby usually, I don't know, for my first birth, it led to a C-section. So I was like, oh, you mean a posterior birth doesn't have to lead to a C-section? Yeah, so that was one thing that really, really amazed me, that I could actually birth a posterior baby. And secondly, I did it all drug-free, which was amazing to me because I really have a very low pain tolerance. And I did it, I think really a lot of credit has to go to the hypnobirthing techniques that I learned at Jeannie's class, as well as how Jeannie was supporting me during the labor. I felt very calm, very relaxed, and at every point she would always make helpful suggestions to help me move the labor along. So I thought, wow, that was really amazing to me. And the third thing that was really amazing to me is that I was very amazed by the female human body, how the sensations could change, as labor progressed, just to birth the baby. And I think that if I had just taken the epidural, I would not have been able to really experience it so deeply. And to me, that was a very empowering experience for me.
Yeah, one of the things I remember I enjoyed hearing from you was saying like, oh my God, nobody told me what to do. I could just do everything on my own, and I found that like really, really good. Yeah. So do you have any tips that you want to share with mothers during pregnancy and during labor that you found helpful?
Yeah. I think first, definitely find a very supportive doctor. I mean, a doctor who's very supportive of Vbacs. And for me, I went to Dr. Paulson, and I knew that he would do everything, within his power to give me a Vbac. I mean, unless he had a really good reason not to, I felt very comfortable that he would try his best to work with me to get a Vbac. The second thing was I looked within myself to confront my fears and doubts beforehand. And I realized that I did have a lot of emotional baggage from the C-section before, and I worked through those doubts. I found that very helpful. Thirdly, I think I also visualized the kind of birth that I wanted. So I had gone for this hypnobirthing class, and I visualized myself laboring in a very calm way, not at all tense, but very calm, and just meeting each surge with the proper breathing technique. And fourthly, I think definitely believe in your body's ability to birth your baby naturally. And fifth, I would say, or if possible, take a hypnobirthing class or read a hypnobirthing book, because it really, really works. And repeat your daily affirmations. So when I went for Jeannie's class, she taught us how to repeat daily our positive affirmations daily, like I will have a smooth and quick delivery. My baby's coming to me. Every surge is good because it brings my baby closer to me. So a lot of mental conditioning, kind of like how an athlete would condition their minds mentally before they go for a competition. Also reading up on natural birth stories, successful Vbac stories, and stay away from people who want to tell you their horror birth stories. Yeah. So after reading all these Vbac stories and natural birth stories, I felt that having a Vbac and having a natural birth, it's so achievable and so possible. I just felt so empowered to just go for it. Yeah. And also, what I found very helpful was engaging a doula that was very experienced in Vbacs, and Jeannie was my doula, and I felt very safe and comfortable with her because I know she had attended many births before, where she would help Vbac mothers give birth. And she had also worked very closely with my doctor, so I felt very comfortable. And truly, I think the doctor only comes in at the very end, so you're pretty much laboring on your own, throughout the whole labor process. And I found that it was very helpful to have Jeannie there to give me pointers and to encourage me, to help me relax. And lastly, I would say just be prepared, because both my doctor and Jeannie did tell me that you can't just go to a class, read a book, and try to wing it on the day itself, because the more prepared you are, the higher your chances of success. So I found that to be very true. Yeah.
Thank you, James.